Welcome to Awesome Movie Year, the podcast where we take a look back at an awesome year for movies, which is every year. My name is Josh Bell, film critic and writer, and I'm here with my co-host.
I'm Jason Harris, filmmaker, comedian, and Josh is carrying my bastard child.
What does that have to even do with this? Oh, I guess.
Did you not watch the movie?
Yeah, no, I was thinking of the main character. I was like, there's no bastard. Yeah, okay, all right.
Or maybe in one reality you're carrying my bastard
You never
child.
know. Anything is possible. Maybe it's an Arnold Schwarzenegger Jr. situation we got going on here.
If you you were upset I didn't go to a main character.
No, I just was trying to.
I
wasn't
Harris, filmmaker, comedian, and I'm running with my red hair.
There you go. That's very clever.
That is a good
reference that
picture,
you've made.
though.
Very clever.
I
Yes.
have to save my boyfriend. He has 100,000 Deutschmarks to a drug dealer. See, it's too on the nose, Josh.
No, you're right. You're right. I clearly am not fully alert here yet, but we'll get there, because this is a very energetic film that we're about to talk about.
And then Josh became alert.
Thank you.
Polaroid.
Yeah. Hopefully so. Some flashes of the upcoming discussion in our podcast. So we've been talking about the films of 1999 in this season, and we are here at our foreign film pick, which is Run, Lola Run, the German film from Tom Tykwer. And
that was good.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. I think that's right. I hope so.
Yeah, Lola Run.
Yes, exactly. That is the German title. And was released in Germany and some European countries in 1998, made its way to the US and other places worldwide in 1999, including the Sundance Film Festival, where it won the World Cinema Audience Award at 1999 Sundance. And it was a massive hit. It grossed, for something like this, it grossed $22.9 million worldwide on its budget of $1.75 million. So pretty impressive there. This was Tykwer's third film, but his breakthrough here to a worldwide audience.
13.8 million in Germany in 1998, the highest grossing film there. And I think, Josh, beyond being a hit, we were in college at the time. This was on the tip of the tongue of it. You got to go see this movie, right? It was proto-hipster, I'd say.
Yeah, it was certainly one of the indie films of that year, that moment that everyone was talking about that was cool to go see.
Right, and that's one of the recurring themes of this season is the indie boom and how it was supposed to take over Hollywood. But instead, they all sold out to be Marvel writers.
Yeah,
that's not exactly true.
No, but I feel like that's always a narrative it's like the indie films are taking over, but then they just get co-opted. But
kind of happened in the 70s.
Yeah, kind of. But then anyway, we're off track there. But this movie was successful, won a bunch of awards, including Best Foreign Film at the Independent Spirit Awards and 7 awards at the German Film Awards, kind of the top film award there in Germany, including Best Picture. It was Germany's selection for Best Foreign Language Film at the Oscars, but it was not nominated.
It's kind of crazy that it wasn't nominated because, when they talk about Best Picture and they're like, well, there should always be one mainstream thing or this or that. I feel like with Best Foreign Picture, if one breaks through to this much of the mainstream, you can't deny what it is. I didn't look up the nominees, but I can't imagine there were 5 more impactful foreign films in this time period.
Yeah, I didn't either, but you're probably right. And we've certainly talked about the Oscars' poor selections many, many times, especially I think in the foreign language category and in the documentary category where they've had various arcane procedures for how they pick what is nominated. So it's not surprising to me that they missed the boat on this and missed the opportunity to nominate a movie that was actually very popular,
right?
That people might have heard of and wanted to see get an award. But even though it didn't get the Oscar nomination, it was highly popular with critics. It was very, very well reviewed. I couldn't even find a negative review from any major critic. So I'm going to read you some positive reviews.
And right before you do, Josh,
yes.
All About My Mother won Almodovar.
Is that for 98 or not? Because it would have been 98, I think, actually.
Really?
Well, yeah, because the way the submission process works is from when it was released in the home country. So,
ooh, Josh beat both of us.
I guess I didn't look it up though, so I don't know. Let's.
So it would have been okay. So it would have been. Well, of course, it wasn't going to win. It had to go against Life is Beautiful. That was the juggernaut.
Yeah.
Right? Central Station, that was very popular.
Right.
Children of Heaven, a great Persian movie. Have
I
you
haven't
ever seen that? Yeah.
No.
And then The Grandfather from Spain and Tango from Argentina. These are, heavy hitters. I take it back.
All right.
Later, Run, Lola, Run. Enjoy your...
I mean, certainly Life is Beautiful was a massive juggernaut. And this would have actually, the nomination process would have meant that it would have been nominated for an Oscar, I think probably before it was released in the US and became that popular.
I know, how can you keep up with this?
It's very confusing. So when it was released in the US, however, critics thought it was great. Roger Ebert said, "Film is ideal for showing alternate and parallel timelines. It's literal. We see Lola running, so we accept her reality, even though the streets she runs through and the people she meets are altered in each story. The message is that the smallest events can have enormous consequences. Run, Lola, Run is essentially a film about itself, a closed loop of style. Movies about characters on the run usually involve a linear story, but this one is basically about running, and about the way that movie action sequences have a life and logic of their own. I would not want to see a sequel to the film, and at 81 minutes, it isn't a second too short. But what it does cheerfully, with great energy, and very well." So he liked it, but maybe didn't love it.
I thought he did love it. Didn't he give it like 4 stars?
I think he might have given it 3 out of 4 stars.
Oh.
So, I mean, still positive, though.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned the sequel. The sequel.
Sequel from Tykwer.
Tykwer had said if he was ever going to do a sequel, it would be about the bum that Moritz gives the gun to.
Oh,
that would be the sequel.
That who sets it all off because he takes the money that Manny accidentally leaves on.
Yeah, Manny. And Moritz is I think his real name, the actor.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, Moritz Bleibtreu.
Oh, is it Morris? Oh, okay. You're right. My apologies.
Moritz Bleibtreu.
Moritz, yeah.
Moritz Bleibtreu.
That's this is riveting stuff here. I would not want to see that sequel, so I'm with Ebert on that. I'm glad that is not a thing.
What do you think it would be called?
Run, Bum, Run. it would be I don't know.
Well,
but he wouldn't be running.
He was on a bike.
Yeah, maybe it would be Bike, Bum, Bike. It would be a terrible title. I would not see that movie.
Well, Run wasn't probably like such a, it's a unique title.
It's a thing that you can, we talked about Forrest Gump, Run, Forrest, Run. I feel like that's a construction that people say. It's a sentence.
Yeah, no one said Bike, Forest, Bike.
No, they didn't. So. But I mean, I think Ebert is right in that one thing that struck me about watching this movie is that it's really not about anything. There's like barely a plot of any kind.
Oh my God, Josh. Haven't you read any of the essays about like determinism and chaos theory and the butterfly effect and all free will? It's got so many layers of philosophy if you wanted to.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, from a plot standpoint, there's barely a story. There's those themes, I suppose. I feel like it's a stretch to say that it's all that deep, but maybe I'm wrong about that.
I mean, I'm just telling you, people have written these essays.
Sure. I know. I believe you.
Yeah.
Did you read them?
I read them all, but we don't really have time to get into that
Sure.
But I could see, like you're a college student, you go out with a bunch of friends on a Friday night and you get stoned and you talk about like all the different fates you might encounter and whatnot.
Yeah.
Based on this. If I sat in the row behind the row that I sat in when I watched this, would we be having the same night right now?
Right. And I could see that for like stoned college students. And maybe I thought this was more meaningful when I saw it the first time, although I really don't remember. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't feel that way this time. I thought it was entirely forgettable, if fun to watch.
That's interesting. I think that might be a time and place thing because like, you can't deny the influence this has had. And we've seen a lot of things kind of play with a lot of these elements since then. So I think it was, I don't want to say revolutionary, but it was very different at the time.
True. Owen Gleiberman in Entertainment Weekly kind of gets to that a bit. He said, Run, Lola, Run is a madly spinning top of a movie, one that I suspect will eventually be regarded as the art house smash that heralded the 21st century. Its 34-year-old writer-director, Tom Tykwer, is German, but it's obvious that his chief cinematic role models are not Herzog or Fassbinder. The ferociously infectious, candy-colored jump cut style of Run, Lola, Run is pure propulsive pop. The movie would have been unthinkable prior to the age of MTV and Tarantino, Oliver Stone, and Trainspotting. Still, for all its pulsating, razor-edited exuberance, the film is ultimately as unique as its sources. In its speed and elegant hyper-precision, its celebration of action as devotion, it's a new style girl power daydream.
I like all accurate, nothing to fight about there, but
Yeah.
I'm especially the MTV stuff.
Right.
But I think, when you read and research, obviously there are the Vertigo kind of homages in there.
Right.
The other thing is, and maybe he didn't know this at the time, but if I'm not mistaken, Tykwer he ran an advertising agency, right?
Yeah, that could be.
He came from that world.
Right.
And this kind of is shot in the way you see like a lot of commercials shot.
Yes.
So I think it's that kind of art meets commerce feeling that really encapsulates the whole thing where, MTV was kind of going that direction anyway at the time.
Yeah. I mean, to me, this feels like, especially because of the use of the music and the fact that the music was created by Tom Tykwer and Franka Potente, the star who plays Lola, it feels like a long music video to me. And like a good music video, but not really more than that.
And I think, and I don't want to keep saying, well, college kids like it, but I think, having been in college at this time, and this was shot on digital, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, they did the music themselves. They had all these like kind of fast edits and everything. This is something you probably saw and been like, oh, I could, other than like smashing an ambulance through a giant glass plate and maybe staging a robbery in a real life supermarket, like, for the most part, you could make this movie.
Yeah, I mean, it does. I think that you don't want to discount the technical achievement here.
Sure.
And there's a lot of really creative visual stuff going on in this film that is difficult, I'm sure, to achieve.
Yeah, no, and I think I agree with that. I think what I'm saying is like, if you watch something, like American Beauty, which we're going to talk about this season, right? You can see like, oh man, there's just so much money on the screen, right? This, I think, like is shot in a way that's more relatable to someone who's got the home camera.
Right. And I think there are probably a lot of less talented filmmakers who decided their short films were going to incorporate some of these elements.
Right.
And learned that they're not Tom Tykwer. So finally, Janet Maslin in the New York Times said, "It's a furiously kinetic display of pyrotechnics from the director Tom Tykwer, who fuses lightning-fast visual tricks, tirelessly shifting styles, and the arbitrary possibilities of interactive storytelling into the best-case scenario for a cinematic video game. Tykwer does this with a vigor and pizzazz that offset the essentially empty nature of the exercise. He makes Run Lola Run sufficiently hot, fast, and post-human to pull that off. For its sheer cleverness and gamesmanship, its altered sense of emotion and meaning in the face of breathless forward momentum, his film makes a startling harbinger of things to come." So Dave, you're the video game guy. Did this feel video gamey to you?
100%. That was one of the first things I thought of when I was watching this.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, Jason, we haven't played video games as much, but the idea of kind of starting over when you messed up or whatever is a very video game thing.
Lola never hit a block with a question mark on it, and
It would have fit though if
the
she
extent
did.
of our knowledge. Yeah.
Well, you know who else she could have run was Bo Jackson in Tecmo Bowl. He was very good.
Tecmo Bowl,
yeah.
nice.
Nice.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Jason. Excellent contribution on that front. So I assume you watched this in college because you were talking about that.
Yeah, I don't think I saw it in the theater, but shortly thereafter, again, this was like that boom of blockbuster time and everything was available. And I remember being like, oh, I get what all the hype's about.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure. I know I saw it, and I don't think I saw it in the theater. I must have rented it or something, but I had almost no recollection of any specifics coming into it this time. So I think it was a movie that I probably thought was cool, but again, didn't really stay with me in any way.
I want to say one thing, Josh, because you brought up, you took me to task, and you were right to do so.
Uh-huh.
There were a lot of cool techniques, the animations, and then those kind of flashes to future life with the Polaroids. Like I shouldn't have undersold those. Those are pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think even if I felt like it was a bit empty, like the technical aspect of it, I thought was the filmmaking aspect I thought was quite impressive.
Do you think it was empty or just German?
No, I mean, I think we've talked about a few. We've talked about Herzog on this podcast. We've talked about Wim Wenders, and we talked about Wim Wenders this season. And, we may have been frustrated with Paris, Texas, but I wouldn't have said that was empty.
But I don't think it's empty. Is it fatalistic or is it, just kind of like deterministic? I don't think it's empty. I think it's just like you have to accept whatever it is that's coming towards you, unless you can scream at an extremely high pitch and control the way a roulette ball lands.
I mean, my point was that it was like philosophically about emptiness. I mean that it's kind of all style and not much substance.
But that's what I'm saying. I think that the substance comes from the philosophical conversations. It can lead to you dolt.
Oh, all right. Well, thank you for that. Dave, did you watch this movie in college?
I'm sure I did, but like you, I don't remember it at all. This felt like the first time I'd ever seen it. I think maybe I was very under the influence at the time.
What college did you go to, Dave?
UNLV.
Yeesh.
Jason also went to UNLV for a little while.
But that's not where my diploma's from, Josh.
Okay, well let's be elitists here on Awesome Movie here.
I like my time at UNLV.
All right, yeah, we just talked to a UNLV film professor. We can't be
who I studied under.
Yeah, we should be. We're pro UNLV here.
Yeesh. Double yeesh.
Jeez.
No, that's good.
Any background info you want to add on this film, Jason?
Yeah, Josh, I'd like to add a few
Please
things
do.
Here. Josh, you were talking about the awards it won. I believe it won the Grand Prix of the Belgian Syndicate of Cinema Critics.
Sure.
Which is like the award they give to like the film that they feel is most influential going forward, most impactful.
Right. Well, it definitely, I mean, from the reviews here too, you can get the sense that people thought that this would be very influential.
Do you think it was?
I mean, we'll talk about that later, but I feel like not as much as maybe people expected it to be.
Yes. The entire year of 1999, we could argue that was the case.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Let's do that.
Let's do that later. Any other awards that you wanted to get in there?
Nah. What's the point?
All right. Well, that's a very fatalistic, philosophical perspective that you're offering us there. And we'll delve into that more when we come back and talk about our general thoughts on Run, Lola, Run. Welcome back to Awesome Movie Year. In this episode of our season on the films of 1999, we're talking about our foreign film pick, Run, Lola, Run, the German film from Tom Tykwer. And as I've been saying, I thought this movie was fun, but I think it struck me this time as not being much more than just a little fun technical exercise that could have been a music video.
I liked it, and I liked it this time again, maybe not at the same level as the first time, but I thought all the techniques were, to me, like, it is only 81 minutes. Like, I was never like, oh, this is dragging. So, like,
right.
I was able to appreciate it, even if you do think there's a little emptiness to it, just from, like, the technical aspect and the energy of it. I mean, it's always high energy and everything. So, I was just thinking about it on a different metaphysical level than you, Josh.
I mean, clearly you have ascended to a higher plane than I have.
Well, I didn't say that. I just said a different metaphysical level.
I said it. I'll say it.
It could be parallel.
Yeah, I suppose it could be. I mean, I don't, as we talked about, like, I don't want to discount the technical achievements here. It's quite impressive the way that Tykwer constantly switches up what he's doing visually, and especially because he's doing the same story more or less 3 times in a row. And one thing that struck me, I knew that that was the general thing, that it would be 3 iterations of this same story. I thought they would be more different than they were. Like when we got to the second story and Lola runs again to the bank to ask her dad for money, I thought, oh, she's just going to go to her dad every time? Because there's a flash in the beginning in the first story where she thinks, how can I get money? And it flashes through all of these people that she knows until she finally settles on, I'm going to ask my dad. And I thought, oh, maybe the next time she'll pick a different person. And it really runs through very similar situations with only slight variations.
I think there's 2 reasons for that. One, I mean, thematically, that's literally the point of the movie, right? Like if you came here 2 minutes later than you did, then did your whole life change, right?
Right.
And then 2, it's a low budget movie, right? So it's like you can shoot these sequences over and over again with these minor adjustments that lead to major changes.
Right. No, that makes sense. I had this misconception, obviously, from not having really remembered anything about it. I had a different idea of what it would be. But I like that. I mean, and that is obviously the point, is that it's not drastically different, that she makes slightly different choices or encounters a slightly different obstacle, and that changes the ultimate outcome.
And I think that's a cool aspect, as opposed to like, for using a bad example, right? Like,
oh, good. Let's use a bad example.
Right. Well, instead of going on a date with this person, I'll go on a date with this person. Now I'm, had I gone on a date with person A, I'd have been a millionaire, but now I'm married to person B and this person beats me,
Right.
It's like that wouldn't have resonated as much as like, oh, I tripped over the dog, so now I'm running slower, as opposed to I jumped over the dog and now I'm like running faster. I think that's kind of one of the cool things about this movie.
Yeah, I agree. And I think in, as much as we can imagine it in reality, those small choices probably don't make changes like you're pointing out that are so diametrically opposed and so different. And so the idea that, like, for the most part, she ends up in a similar situation. She talks to her dad and she has to resort to drastic measures, and eventually she gets there with Manny. I think makes sense. What Tykwer does with those drastic differences is in those little flashes of the like Polaroids with the people she encounters. Sometimes when there's only a tiny difference, if they see Lola 2 seconds later, their life changes from being a millionaire to being homeless or whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, in a way, that's more effective because those characters are more just like, oh, here's a little side beat, right?
Right.
But I think also you're not giving enough credit to the major changes that do happen, whether it's like, oh, the ambulance smashed through the glass plate and now it runs over Manny, or he does rob the bank and then Lola gets shot and killed. Like there are very extremely different outcomes in this thing.
Right. I mean, those are extremely different. But on the other hand, it's like Lola gets killed because she's there with Manny at the supermarket at the appointed time. And so that's the slight variation, but she still gets there, whether she gets killed or she arrives with the money safely.
Right. So let's just kind of, beat this out in case people are a little confused right now.
They're running away from our podcast.
All right. So in each one, right, we know that Manny needs money because Lola wasn't able to pick him up and a bum took the money.
Can we just say Manny is worthless? If I were Lola, I would have hung up on him and let him die.
Well, why didn't she show up to pick him up?
She tells him why, because her moped got stolen and she tried to get in a cab and the cab went the wrong way. I mean, I feel like she put in a lot more effort and he was like, oh, you didn't pick me up, so I was stressed out and I left this giant bag of money on the subway.
He wasn't stressed out. Police were closing in on him.
They weren't even looking for him. He just was always paranoid about the police, as he says, like, I ran because that's what I always do when I see police.
I'm going to give equal amounts of guilt to Lola and Manny on this one.
I think it's more like 60-40.
But in which way?
His fault.
Yeah, well, coming from a UNLV graduate, I wouldn't be surprised that you think that. So.
All right.
So she needs him, like you said. I got to. He's like, if you don't get here in 20 minutes, I'm going to rob this supermarket to get the money, right?
Because he owes it to like some gangster.
Yeah, right. 100,000 Deutschmarks, right? And so that starts the sequence, and each sequence starts the same. She runs past what I assume is her mother, but we never know.
Yeah, I think it is. I'm pretty sure.
Get me perfume or something. She
Shampoo.
says, yeah. And so that's always the same. And she runs down the hall, and we move into this animated step because I guess you couldn't shoot that with a real dog,
Yeah, maybe, or maybe that wasn't the actual structure of the place where they shot, and she's got to run down some stairs that didn't exist.
And it's this like cool, gnarly 2D Spike and Mike Animation Fest style animation. And in the first one, she runs past the dog, and so everything's on course. The father is at the bank talking to his mistress, who also works there. He learns that the mistress is pregnant. The father tells Lola he's going to leave the entire family and go off with the mistress. And also, why not? Lola, you're not really my daughter. That seemed a little exciting.
The father is quite callous, really.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem to like Lola at all.
That one got a little crazy. It's like, I've held this in for all these years, but now seems like as good a time as any.
Right.
Manny robs the bank. Lola decides to help him. The police catch up and shoot Lola, and she dies.
Right. It's the supermarket that he robs.
Right. I'm sorry. The father's at the bank. That was a misspeak, Josh. Misspoke.
Right. No, I just want to because Lola later does rob the bank.
Right. She does. And I think that's in the second one. Yes. Where instead now she runs out, she trips over the dog. So now she's limping. She gets to the bank late. And the mistress tells the father that the kid's not his. Lola grabs the gun from the
security guard, who is very condescending to her.
He's just a dick, right? She robs the bank, and then, you know, she has the money, but then the ambulance smashes into Manny and kills him. And like we've talked about, there are these set pieces with the, you know, the glass plate. Does she run into that? And the father's associate that Lola kind of jumps over the car or doesn't jump over the car, right? So that's part two. This is a 3 sequence thing. In the third one, she leaps over the dog, gets there early. There's no car accident between the associate and everything. The father and the colleague now go to a meeting together because he wasn't in a car accident. Lola goes to a casino, screams at the roulette wheel, wins like, you know, the 100 and
I think even more than she needs.
She won more. And it's like, but she bet it on 20 both times. And it was like the first time it came up, and the second time she just screamed, which we've only seen her do one other time, and it's like a supernatural scream that can control things or something.
I don't know. Well, yeah, she does it in the beginning, I think, in the first sequence, just in her apartment, and all it does is break stuff.
Right. Meanwhile, Manny finds the bum because of the blind lady who like holds him at the phone booth and is like, look that way, you know, because she's got some supernatural sense also.
And a phone card.
Yes, and a phone card. And today it might not work because of cell phones, right?
True. Well, a lot of things would be different with cell phones in this film.
Yeah. So, and then Manny sees the bum with the bag. He goes, and then he gets the bag back, and the bum's like, at least give me that gun. And he's like, okay. And I thought like the bum would just shoot Manny right there and take the money back, but he didn't.
Right.
You know, so Lola's won this money. She thinks she's going to have to give it over to Ronnie, the drug dealer, right? But Manny's already returned that money. So now they're walking home, and she has all this money, and, you know, maybe she dumps Manny, maybe she doesn't.
I mean, really, she ought to, I think. Although she's not, she's kind of annoying too. There's these interludes too in between the different sequences where we see Manny and Lola in bed together, and they're asking each other these hypothetical questions about what would happen in their relationship. Like Manny asking Lola what would happen if he dies, and Lola asking Manny, you know, how do you know that you really love me? And I think they're also meant to be philosophical, but they just make them seem like annoying people.
No, I agree. They are supposed to be philosophical, and I don't think that's the top-notch writing we're looking for there. But I get it. It's because you need to take a breath between those sequences to restart the the story. So that's why.
Right. Yeah. Structurally, that's why that's there. But I feel like watching them interact that way, it made me like them even less. I was like, these people are annoying. Like, who cares?
Well, no, you're right. They both kind of suck.
Yeah,
right?
they do kind of suck. Yes. So, but I mean, even so, like, I was complaining that this movie is kind of empty or that there's not much to the characters, but those interludes that are all about learning more about the characters, I didn't really care for. And so maybe I didn't want that.
And I agree with you on like the substance of them, but I'm like, oh, these are cool. The red,
sure, they look cool.
Overlays and everything with the lights. So that's kind of what I was focused on.
Yeah, no, all the stylistic stuff is cool, whether it's that or the Polaroids or the animation or just the various camera angles, the way it's shot, it all looks good.
Right. And the Polaroids, it's like you see this random person who, has a brief interaction with Lola. And, in one, I don't know, can you go through a sequence of those Polaroids or?
Well, I mean, are there 3 people that they do it with? Yeah,
there's
think
one woman at the bank. There's one woman on the street. And then
there's the guy who stole a bike.
The bikes. Yeah.
Yeah. So it starts with the woman with a baby carriage, and she's one that Lola sees early on. And there's one where she gets like her baby taken away, I think. And then there's another one where she becomes a born again Christian, I think. And then there's the guy who's stolen a bike and he tries to sell Lola his bike. And there's one where he gets beat up, I assume, by the people he stole the bike from.
But that worked out the best for him because then was it a nurse or someone at a cafe?
Yeah, I think it's like an EMT who helps him after he gets beat up.
And then they get married.
Right. And then there's another one where he ends up like a homeless drug addict.
And he dies because
yeah. And then in the third story, we actually see him
talking to
as
the bum.
part of the story, because he sells the bum his bike. That's why we have Bike Bum Bike as our sequel to this film. And then there's a woman who works at the bank who also, there's one like Lola just kind of looks at her, and then we see her also dying somehow, I think. And then there's another one where she instead has a happy sort of romance with one of her coworkers.
Right.
So yeah, those are just little, I mean, it's almost, they're so fast that by the time you realize what's going on, you're like, wait, what happened to this person? And it's over.
But I remember watching that the first time and I was like, whoa, this is so cool. Like, so no one really focuses on like these background players that like, for the free guys, if you will.
Yes, the NPCs. They are, yeah.
Right. And I thought that was a very cool technique when I first saw it.
Yeah. No, it is cool. And I think it still is cool. And I think that is one of the things in this movie that it holds your attention because it's a short movie and it always is literally in motion, but also visually and narratively is always in motion, is always showing you something new. And I think that's important because it's also always showing you something that you kind of saw before.
Yeah, but I get what you're saying. You're not thrilled with the substance, but Josh, if there was more substance, there might be less running.
Right. I was also thinking this whole time, like, man, Franka Potente is really in good shape. She must have run like a marathon, the equivalent of a marathon while shooting this movie.
Is it Franka or Famka?
Franka. It's Franka.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I saw some review that I either part of one of the reviews that I didn't use or another review mentioned compared her to Tom Cruise, who's known for running all the time, and said that her run was better than his. It looked better or something like that.
Yeah, but he like jumps off of buildings to other buildings, and she just ran down the streets. And that's no knock on her. She wasn't given the opportunity to jump off the building.
Here. No, she wasn't. But I mean, just from a physical standpoint, she's running a lot, and that must have been a difficult shoot.
I think the other thing is like, that red hair is so striking. Right?
Yes.
It's very punk rock and, dyed hair. I was kind of bummed to learn it was a wig and not her real hair because I thought like she is a heroine on screen that we never really, I mean, we saw some of that type in the 90s in like, Tank Girl or like SLC Punk or stuff like that. Right. But that was not very mainstream for any period of time. And then we get to Scott Pilgrim.
Well, yeah, that's much less, like 20 years later, or
so,
maybe not.
But I think we've kind of covered that. I just wanted to ask Dave, what do you think the music added to this thing?
Well, especially with the whole video game angle, I mean, it is just like that, just hard pumping electronic music soundtrack, which just keeps that running going the whole time. It's an awesome soundtrack.
And
I
she
love
has
it.
to keep running because.
Right. Otherwise, she's gonna die.
Yeah.
Right.
That's because it's the title of the movie.
Yeah, that too.
It's not called Stop Lola Stop.
No, that would be a bad sequel.
Not like Bike Bum Bike.
Right. No, both of those bad.
This would be like my dream movie to score, by the way. This would be so much fun to just nonstop action wall to wall,
Right. Well, I mean, I think that's the thing. Is not just that the music enhances it. Like the music is essential.
Yeah.
Like this movie would not exist without the music. I mean, that's why to me it felt almost like a music video because the music is as important as anything else.
It's a constant background. There are very, I don't know, maybe zero moments without some background music.
Maybe, but I mean,
or I'm sure when she gets shot or something and they slow it down, there's probably something.
But it's notable because you are expecting the music to be so constant. And again, because the score or the songs and the score are by the filmmaker himself, it's so well integrated into every other element. It's not like he made the film and then handed this off to a composer and said, "Give me some music." I'm sure the music was something that was in his mind from the beginning.
That's why I think the whole ad agency background, which if it turns out to be false, I've really dug myself.
I mean, it makes
here.
sense. I can absolutely see that being.
But I do
background.
think it is paced and thought out like a long commercial.
Right. Yeah. I mean, a commercial to me, a music video. I mean, I almost wondered. I went back and looked. I was like, oh, was he not a filmmaker and was just a musician and made a music video that just got really long? And that's not true. This is his third film and he was a filmmaker. But it almost felt that way. Like it could have been just like, hey, let's make a video for our song. And then it just kind of kept going.
Well, that's why I was saying like I could see how like a lot of people would be young filmmakers would be inspired by this. Like if he could do this, what could we do?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it certainly is. I mean, MTV and music videos had been influencing film since the 80s and, since the first sort of crop of...
And vice versa.
Right. But I mean, since that first crop of music video directors kind of transitioned into making feature films, but this definitely feels like maybe as a result of that cross-pollination of going back and forth. And this is sort of the ultimate result of something like that, where they just fuse together.
Yeah, this is the bastard child, like the bastard child the lady's carrying in the movie that you refuse to acknowledge.
Yes, no, I acknowledge that I missed that. I was focused on the wrong thing, and that is the child that we don't learn who is the father of the child. It's not Lola's dad.
Maybe it's the associate that he goes to lunch with.
It could be, or maybe is the other coworker that is in the flash forward falling in love with the other coworker. Maybe he's just sleeping with everyone at the bank.
Maybe Ronnie the gangster's getting around town. Who knows?
Maybe it's a different one on each run.
Yeah, we never find out. Yeah.
That now it's not just a sequel. Now we have a whole trilogy.
Prequel? Oh god, yeah, that's what we would have now. Run Lola Run. She'd be running over 8 episodes that would all be 80 minutes long.
Daddy, baby, daddy.
That does not work at all.
Let's rate this thing, Josh.
Yeah, let's do it. Out of 5 bags of money, I don't know.
Sure, not 5 long runs.
Sure, we could do that.
I gave it 3.5 because I'm not disagreeing with any of your assessments. I think you're probably right, and I could probably say an enthusiastic 3, but like just technically, it still feels very ahead of its time. And like ahead of now in some ways. So from that aspect, it's a 3.5 for me.
No, that's fair. I give it a 3 out of 5, but I had fun watching it, and it certainly is a solid achievement. So Dave, what would you give this?
I actually went with a 4.
Oh, all right.
I think it's still pretty standalone. Like, I think there's a lot of things that are probably influenced by it, but it's still an amazing version of what it is.
Yeah. All right. Oh, that's fair. Well, we'll talk more about that when we come back and get into the legacy of Run Lola Run. Welcome back to Awesome Movie Year. In this episode of our season on the films of 1999, we're talking about our foreign film pick, Run Lola Run. And in terms of the legacy, we kind of have hinted at this, but this is a movie that people thought would be extremely influential at the time. And I think in some ways it has, but I think in a lot of ways, as Dave was kind of alluding to just a minute ago, it's not. It's its own thing, and people didn't take nearly as much from it as you might have thought they would.
Well, I definitely think we see it in commercials and music videos, like you said. We know, like the Bon Jovi music video, "It's My Life."
Well, if it influenced Bon Jovi,
taken a lot from the Dave, The Legend of Zelda, right? That game.
I wasn't going to go with that one in particular, but
Majora's Mask,
perhaps.
No.
Is that really?
This
is all from Wikipedia.
Yeah. So what? That's
Jason
research.
Jason never played a Legend of Zelda video game.
No, you're right. I read that fact on Wikipedia, Josh.
Yeah.
I would actually go more.
I've
with,
also read a book about the movies of 1999.
I know. I'm just saying
which included facts of this film.
These specific references may or may not be all that strong.
I would say maybe more of the Phantom Hourglass, not than the Majora's Mask, but that's going down a whole rabbit hole.
Simpsons
Zelda.
episode Trilogy of Error.
I haven't seen that one.
Anyway, whatever, you knobs. Look, here's what I'm gonna say, right?
Yes.
Maybe I think the influence is in stuff that maybe hasn't broken through on an American level, but like, for instance, I watched Dark, those 3 seasons of that really trippy German, alternate universe show, and you could totally tell this has a lot of those thematic elements in there, not stylistically, but definitely of the thought process and everything.
Right.
And, Tykwer.
Yeah.
He, have you watched Babylon Berlin?
I have not. Yeah. Babylon Berlin, which is the TV series that he co-created and wrote and directed, but it's very popular.
Right. And Sense8,
Right.
So he's playing with these themes over and over. And I think like I said, Dark definitely plays with these themes. I just think I don't know how many ways could this translate into Hollywood. We saw the butterfly effect.
Oh,
that was horrible.
That was bad.
Right?
I guess I'm thinking less about the thematic elements, which are things that have come up in the alternate universe and butterfly effect and stuff has been a fairly common theme. But I think what's striking about this movie is less so that and more the stylistic aspect.
But I do think we've seen a lot of that, like I said, in commercials and this and that. But if you were shooting a chase today, you wouldn't shoot it with like quick cut because I feel like he did this and then a lot of other people did this. So maybe it cycled out more than it didn't have the influence.
Yeah, maybe so. You mentioned a couple of the projects that Tom Tykwer has worked on since this, Babylon Berlin currently ongoing. I think there's a new season coming or just recently premiered, and is very popular on Netflix. And he kind of balanced between, he did some more artsy type things, including more films in Germany, but he also went into Hollywood and into English language films. Perfume, The Story of a Murderer was a pretty acclaimed film with Ben Whishaw.
Did you see that one?
I did see that one. It's very strange.
I love that movie, actually.
Oh, all right. There you go. Yeah, I've seen a few of his films. His next film after this, which was another German film with Franka Potente called The Princess and the Warrior. According to Letterboxd, I saw it. But I really don't remember any. And I gave it 2 stars, so I didn't like it.
The International, Clive Owen, Cloud Atlas, Yawn. And then A Hologram for the King with Tom Hanks. Did you ever see that?
I haven't. That was
Dave Eggers story.
Yeah. That was kind of a flop, a rare Tom Hanks flop. But right, I mean, he's worked a lot with the Wachowskis. They co-directed Cloud Atlas. He directed some episodes of Sense8, and I think he's doing some music for the new Matrix.
He's a composer on the new Matrix Resurrections. Josh, while we're talking about music, we got Johnny Kilmer and Reinhold Hill were the other two who did the music on this film.
And who I think he collaborates with on all of his music for his films and for other films.
Cool.
So, so he's pretty successful and kind of mixing different styles. Franka Potente also went into Hollywood. People still probably know her most from the Bourne movies.
That's what I know her most from. I mean, I know her most from this, but if I was like just watching American films, she was like a Bourne girlfriend, and then spoiler on Bourne coming up. I think she dies in the first one that she's in, and then she comes back in a flashback. In the
no, I think she survives the first one, and then they kill they kill her
in like the
first beginning of the second one.
Right,
yeah.
You're right.
So they're like, oh, we got to get him back in the spy game. Let's kill his girlfriend.
Yeah.
But yeah, she had a big part in the second Conjuring movie. The most recent thing I remember from was that terrible Tom Hardy FX series Taboo, where Tom Hardy just grunts the whole time.
I mean, she works a lot.
She does.
And so does our friend Moritz Bleibtreu.
Sure, he does.
He works a lot in, more German than international, I think. He was in Speed Racer. But more importantly,
by the Wachowskis, the big influence. The Wachowskis must have loved this film.
Yeah, I think thematically they talk about a lot of the same things. Right?
Yeah.
But Das Experiment, that's definitely a cool movie that he's in that people might not have seen.
Yeah, I've heard of that, but I haven't. Have you seen that?
Yeah,
it was good.
Yeah, I've seen it, Josh.
Okay,
I didn't see it on Wikipedia. I saw it by watching it.
That's good. That's the way to do it. And also according to Wikipedia, there is a Hindi language remake of this film coming
Loop Lapita.
So that's
coming out by the time this episode's released.
Yeah, so if you're in India and you're going to see that film, let us know what you thought of it.
Or anywhere else in the world.
Well, yeah, but I don't know if it's going to be out anywhere else yet.
Hey, one thing we didn't mention is at the beginning, there's that narration about again, the philosophy or metaphysics of life.
Right.
And that narrator is Hans Peischt.
Okay.
Who is a very famous fairy tale narrator in Germany.
Right.
So I think it's cool that you get a voice that all these kids know from growing up, and you have them ask these really deep questions of what does life mean and how does everything affect everything.
Yeah, that is cool. I mean, obviously something that American audiences it would be lost on us, but that's cool.
That's an Easter egg, and I don't even know if they celebrate Easter in Germany.
I think they probably do.
Do they have eggs in Germany?
Oh, they have eggs in Germany, Dave.
Experts on German culture here at Awesome Movie Year.
Hey, Josh, the one Tykwer film you left out was that he took over for Kieslowski when Kieslowski died. The movie called Blind Chance. You ever seen that?
I haven't seen that, but I think it also has some similar themes.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
All right, so we have neither of us seen that film, but it exists.
Yeah. So if you want to see a movie we haven't, Blind Chance.
Excellent. Well, on that note, that is Run Lola Run, and that is this episode of Awesome Movie Year. Check us out on social media.
Yeah, I don't know why you would after this conversation, but if you still want to, I'm Jason Harris Comedy on Facebook and Instagram, although I think now you find me on Facebook at J Harris Comedy, which is where you also find me on Twitter. Goforjason.com in any universe is not a good website. And we are on awesomemovieyear.com, serviceable, Awesome Movie Year on Facebook and Instagram, Awesome Movie Pod on Twitter.
And you can vote, I think, still in our ongoing tournament for our audience choice episode this season.
Yes, and Dave will talk more about his Facebook group, which is where we post half the poll, and on our Twitter is where we post the other half. But our audience choice is all about the teen movies of 1999. And we've set it up like an NCAA style basketball tournament, single elimination. And it's fun. Every week or every few days, we put up a new matchup, and the winners advance until there will be only one, which will be our audience choice episode. This season.
So that should still be going on as this is out. So you can vote for that. You can check me out at joshbellhateseverything.com, at joshbellhateseverything on Facebook, and at SignalBleed on Twitter. And you can listen to our producer, David Rosen's awesome podcast, Piecing It Together.
Check out Piecing It Together wherever you listen to podcasts, and check out our Facebook group that Jason was just talking about, Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces.
Can I just say, Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces, we put the Wild Wild West episode out, and people eviscerated us, telling us how good Wild Wild West is.
It's like 3 people who like that movie, and they're all in the Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces group.
And 2 of them we both think have horrible taste in movies. But it was so much fun to hear people say what was so great about it when I didn't think there was anything great about it at all.
You sure didn't. No, we do. It's great to get feedback of any kind on that. And it's fun when people don't agree with our opinions and we get to hear a different perspective. So yeah, thank you, Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces.
Yeah, that's what we like, Josh. Open dialogue. And that's it.
Okay.
That one thing.
So what do we have in our next episode, Jason?
Josh, get ready. The creepy crawlies and ghouly woolies are coming out. It's a special Halloween episode in season 4, 1999. The Blair Witch Project.
Ooh.
Yee!
We'll definitely not do that. Tune in next time for the Blair Witch Project, and thanks for listening to Awesome Movie Year.
Thank you for listening to Awesome Movie Year. Make sure to follow Awesome Movie Year on Facebook, at Awesome Movie Pod on Twitter, and at Awesome Movie Year on Instagram. And if you like the show, review us and rate us with 5 stars on Apple Podcasts.
An All Points West production, produced by David Rosen in Las Vegas.